Apparently.
Yeah, these chairs.
I was waiting for the beep to get us going.
Yeah, really, everybody's waiting for that. It's like Pavlov. Okay, we'll get started now.
My apologies. We're gonna have to find a new system. Where's the candy? What's going on?
Deb is saying?
Till August 15th. Till,
Yeah, for a long. Okay. So
Oh,
now
I didn't.
later
Oh,
is
I
bottle
missed that, I
caps.
guess.
yeah, she,
Request.
I put it here because Shannon doesn't start till August, and technically her last day is July 1.
Bottle caps and now and lasers.
Yeah.
You already know.
Okay, she said read my usual blurb. I don't know who we've got. Yeah, I'm cool with my usual blurb.
Penny candy?
We have a bunch of people when you do the personnel ones, just to
I
recognize
fit
the
in the
audience
middle.
that are here.
Right.
Just FYI.
I'm with both.
It's a lot of new appointments.
I thought that's what it was.
I don't know. I always tell my mother I was deprived. We
Is
never had
everybody?
candy.
You
We
guys,
never had
you
soda.
look so far away. This additional table.
Yes, Kathy, we're all set down here.
That sounds
We're
like
gonna have
that.
our own meeting over here.
We're having our own meeting.
That sounds like that commercial, the one with the Rio, the cold stuff, you know.
Yeah,
Yep.
move it closer. There we go. Try now.
Okay, I guess we're about ready to start. Just wanted to give you a little heads up about that.
It's 7:04. We can go.
Okay. So I will begin and call the meeting to order. At this time, I will call the June 15th, 2022 meeting of the Board of Education to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. You have the agenda before you. I will accept a motion to approve the agenda presented before us with the addition of walk-on resolutions 8G, H, I, and J. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Nolani?
Noelani?
Second, Bernice.
Bernice. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. We have the minutes of the June 1st, 2022 Board of Education meeting presented for approval. May I have a motion to accept these minutes?
So moved.
Ann, second.
Second, Erica.
Erica. Any additions, corrections, or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And we now have the opportunity for comments, and I will read my usual language about this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to convene into the public comment period of our meeting. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we have chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. This is because we take your concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We will, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel. Please know, however, that we take personnel concerns very seriously. On these matters, we would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. Finally, we recognize that right now our nation and our community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience can maintain civility and respect for any divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address their comments to the board directly rather than the audience. In the unlikely event the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking, if you so choose. And we will now begin with public comments. So I have Juwan Chanel. Not sure if I read that right. If you'd like to come on down. Oh, it might be either. Did I misread that? Is it Chandler? Is your last name? Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes.
Yep. And
There should be a microphone there.
Yeah, there's a microphone.
Oh, okay. If you would speak into that, please. It's more for the broadcast. Thank you.
My question was, I work for Union College, right? We get tested every week. I got tested. I got a positive, and I notified the proper channels. One of my sons was allowed to go to school, and one of my sons was sent home. And I was wondering why was that? The rules are supposed to be the same for the whole school district. I was just wondering why one of my sons could go to school with a mask, and my other son was sent home.
Okay.
That's my only thing.
Thank you. That will take a little investigation, I think.
Because one went to Woodlawn, and the other one went to Yates. Yates told my son Joshua that he could come to school with a mask on, and they told my son Isaiah, who went to Yates, that he could not come to school until Monday or whatever day it was.
Yeah.
That's all I have to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll follow up. And I have Felicia Chandler. Okay. Susan Fitzgerald.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Friends of Music. And for those of you on the board or in the community who don't know what that is, we're a group of volunteers, community members, parents, and staff who gather together to fundraise and do whatever we can to support the amazing music programs in this district. So tonight, I'm here to read a letter drafted by our interim president, and I'd like to take just a minute to read it. Sure. It's being directly addressed to departing board member Ann Riley.
We'll honor that.
On behalf of Schenectady Friends of Music, I would like to sincerely thank you for your service to the district, especially the school's music and instrumental programs. Your advocacy and efforts to support these programs and the students in them have not gone unnoticed. And again, that's drafted by Rob Kraponic, our interim president, but it comes from all of us. So with heartfelt thanks, Anne, we wish you well in your next phase of life.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. We have the Superintendent next.
Good evening, board members. Thank you, board president. Just a couple comments. Obviously, we're at the end of the year, so there's a lot going on. So I will apologize if this may be a little too long of an update, but I do want to cover a bunch of things. First and foremost, I do want to thank Ann Riley. We had a quick but I think successful first year together, and then you're leaving me. So, but I wish you the well, and I'm looking forward to what you see. I look forward to watching your hiking photos on Twitter and all the great things you have planned out in nature. She takes some great shots, so if you ever want to see the Adirondacks in her lens, follow her on Twitter. So thank you, Ann. I want to also go back. Our new website is a week old, an app, mobile app. So if you haven't downloaded our mobile app or been to our website, make sure you do. Our mobile app is really getting a lot of good feedback. We're making some adjustments here and there, but it's everything Schenectady in your pocket. And so I highly recommend you do that. There's on our social media, there's some links to get that. Today we had an impressive ceremony. I want to thank Deputy Superintendent Lynn Rutnick, Executive Director Secondary Schools Tyrone O'Mealy, who shepherded this work of the redesign with an amazing teacher group of volunteers that committed themselves, parents, students who have started this vision. We shared some of those details at the last board meeting, but today we actually cut a ribbon to honor the first phase of that with Schenectady, SUNY Schenectady Community College, and our partners at Proctor's as the city as our campus in downtown Schenectady. So really cool event. Definitely want to recognize both of their leadership and efforts in making that happen. Tomorrow, we have a great kickoff for our community schools initiative. We have, I believe, about 65 to 70 members registered that are coming from the community. Really excited. This will be our kickoff conversation. We're going to develop a community schools advisory board and really start to figure out how we build synergy between for-profit, not-for-profit, faith-based organizations as school system, and figure out how we can all align our synergy to best support our families and our kids. So really optimistic in this initiative. I think it's going to be a game changer for us in Schenectady, and if you can join us tomorrow 5:30 at Liberty Church, please do so. Anybody on the board's welcome to come. Everyone else, you got to register. So sorry about that. Speaking of community, I just want to also publicly thank our community partners again, Dr. Muno, Philip Morris. They are fantastic for letting us expand in their two places. And if you don't have an opportunity to see it, please connect. We did announce that tonight we'll be potentially naming, the board will be appointing Chris Chank as the core principal for that group of students. And so Chris will be your liaison to get access to that amazing campus down there downtown. So we're excited and looking forward to that. Last week was senior night, so congratulations to all the students who were recognized. Tons of awards and scholarships. I won't go through many of them, but I do want to recognize a couple of kids who got some really excellent and highlighting awards. Shane Terry, David Bernard Jr., they got the Excellence and Leadership Award at the Suburban Council. Ceremony held at the Troy Hilton Garden. Congratulations to both of them. Some of our students, two of them, our students won 2 of the 8 scholarships that were announced by the Schenectady Foundation. Leah Rajwant was awarded $5,000 in a STEM scholarship to study pre-med at Union College. And Joseph Rauchi received a $1,500 award. So thank you, Schenectady Foundation, for recognizing those 2 kids. Every dollar helps towards college. I mentioned this in my brief last week, but I also want to recognize and congratulate Christopher Dwarka and Jitanji Budram, 4th graders at Page, who were awarded the Attorney General's Office last week for being excellent role models, demonstrating academic excellence, participation in extracurricular activities. Their principal is in the audience, Dr. JP. Thank you, Dr. JP. Doing great work with those kids. I'm also happy to share, this is a good one. It has to do with food, and it's that our menus are now translated, our food menus are now translated each month in Spanish, Arabic, and Pashto, which is a big step for us as we continue to exercise our diversity, equity, and inclusion policy in all facets of our organization. So thank you, Elaine, for that work. High school exams started today. Regents started today. They run from today through next Wednesday. Again, I want to wish all our students much luck on those exams, as oftentimes they're determinants for getting their diploma. The parent night for the high school that was scheduled for tomorrow has been moved from the Hamilton Hill Arts Center to Washington Irving due to potential weather forecasts of rain. And so the flyer and details are posted on our social media and our website. Also this is a big important reminder, no school on Monday to observe Juneteenth. Please take time to learn our history as a country, the significance of that day. It's just not a day off. There's history behind it. And please educate your kids, educate those in the community who may not know. I know many of our elementary schools will be doing some things closing out the week to kind of teach that lesson. We had Flag Day the other day, and I'm sure Juneteenth lessons will be going on this week. But I always want to make sure to uplift that, because it's just not a day off, just like any other holiday in the past. There is history behind it, and we should spend time reflecting on it. Next week is our last official week of school. There are many moving up ceremonies that have been posted on our school web calendars. Check them out. Elementary and middle school students, sixth grade middle school students attend a half day on 6/22 and 6/23, which is the last day of school. And there's only 9 days until graduation. It's a day that everybody works hard for, whether it's 10 years from now, this upcoming year. We look forward to kicking it off. Great celebration out on our field here in the high school, and we'll pray for no rain. Okay.
We're already checking the 10-day forecast, I hear.
And just lastly, I would just say to all the staff, it's been a tough year. And, we came in very differently. And for Schenectady, we came in very different than the rest of the capital region. We were a district that was closed since almost March 2020. And so we had no in-person learning the year before other than voluntary pods and things of that nature. So this year was really big for us. We did it. We stayed open. We stayed open for our kids. We stayed open for our community. And I don't want no one to forget where we were when we opened the doors. There was a lot of anxiety, a lot of nervousness. We had periods that we had some bumps. And I just really appreciate our teachers, social workers, our psychologists, our counselors. Everyone stepped up to cover classrooms, our nurses. Everyone stepped up. And so then they're still stepping up, right, to make sure we finish off with some integrity. So I just really want to uplift that. Our principals, our custodial staff, everybody chipped in to make sure that we stayed open, and I'm really proud of that. And so, onward and upward, and looking forward to a little bit of a break in the summer, but back at it and continuing to rise as a district. So thank you.
Thank you. No, Alani. They always want to know who I'm going for.
So I just wanted to start off by recognizing some of the events that went on at the end of the year. The first that I had the pleasure of attending was June 2nd, the Scholar Awards Night. I was there in attendance, yes, with Bernice. We were able to watch the students be applauded and recognized for all of their hard work and dedication over the year. I have to say that, obviously congratulations to all of the students for all of the various awards, but there were some students that were specifically recognized for some of their scholarships that they received. So forgive me for any mispronunciations, but I have Ela Assessments, Janessa Gardner, Ethan Hull, Malachi Phoenix, Janessa Gardner again, Zach Schneider, Ela Assessments again. I believe she's going to Siena. And then Angel Santiago was recognized multiple times. Congratulations to him on his multiple awards. I also attended the final play at the Blue Roses Theater on Saturday, June 11th, and that was very exciting to see. I love theater, and being able to watch the plays that the students had written about resilience was fantastic. So I did want to recognize everyone that was involved, not just the actors and actresses that were on stage, but everyone behind the scenes that made it a pleasure to view. Third, the website and the new app. As a parent, I can only say that this is amazing. For years, this has been a very difficult, in my opinion, website to maneuver and to identify stuff. So if you haven't downloaded the app, please download the app. You'll be pleased with it, I'm pretty sure. Juneteenth. Again, I just wanted to also point that out, Central Park on Saturday, I believe from noon to 8 p.m. So definitely come out if you don't know anything about Juneteenth and what it means. It is a celebration. Please feel free to come out and join everyone there at the park. I will be there. We've reached the end of the year, so congratulations to all of the staff, the administrators, the students, everyone that goes and has a part in our children's education. We've reached the end here for the year. The summer's upon us, so I'm just wishing everybody a safe and fun summer. And last but not least, Anne, I just wanted to say that you will be missed. Thank you just for your dedication and leadership and helping me as I was a new member coming on board and going into my 3rd year.
Erica.
Got it. So it was funny because Ann came up to me before the meeting started and said something. It didn't register in my head while she was saying it. All I thought was like, all right, Ann, I see you. And then I was sitting here and I started to really think about it. And I was like, let me look up the meeting agenda. And I was like, oh. Then I got sad because I realized it was your last meeting because I thought we still had one more at the end of June. So it's bittersweet that this is our last meeting for June. But just thank you, honestly, because being a new board member, you really helped a lot, me understanding the role and how all this works. So thank you. That's all I have.
Jamaica.
Thank you to the folks that came out and spoke. Us being accessible is super important. I was able to attend the Washington Irving graduation that occurred here. It covered multiple years because of COVID, so that was one thing. It was intergenerational. The folks who were graduating, and I don't know that a lot of folks know this, I graduated with my GED from Washington Irving. And there was no ceremony. That did not happen back then. And the looks on folks' faces, it was so important and so wonderful, including and especially the oldest member to receive her GED. It was wonderful. The photos were great. Apparently, I fist bump a lot, high fives, but it was just really, it was dope. There's so many performances, graduations, moving up ceremonies that have happened, that are going to happen, which includes pre-K, both within our spaces, but also at our community-based organizations. Why? Because Roman is graduating from pre-K. Can you believe he's gonna be 5? So just like really to everyone and looking how we are expanding the number of children that have access to education. It's a wonderful thing to see. So make sure you look up and find out when the graduations are for the friends, family, neighbors in your life, and be there, because it is an accomplishment, regardless of the moving up ceremony, kindergarten, pre-K, 5th, 8th, and the big one. But these kids work hard, and they really do appreciate when folks are there cheering them on. So if you can get there, middle school's next week, looking forward to it. Sikkim Summer Lunch Program information is out. If you haven't seen it, find it. They're all over the city in the summer. They're everywhere. I'm sure that we're going to share it out because we always do. This is the last week for Girls Inc. For its current program. Friday's the last day, and I don't even know when they start back up again. They do have a summer program with a sliding scale fee. I'm sure if folks are looking for information, they can still register. I was able to attend the dress rehearsal for Blue Roses Theater, and you wouldn't have known it was a dress rehearsal. It was the performance, and those students wrote, directed, did all of the behind the scenes. It was really great. It reminded me of 10 by 10 many years ago. So really, and the things folks were talking about that our students were bringing forward within their work, this was in their work, it was so many things, it was wonderful. So if you missed it, you missed out. Juneteenth is actually 3 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's stuff happening in Schenectady. If you go to Hamilton Hill Arts Center on social media or look for their website, you can find that information. They do a really amazing job every year, and special shout out to Walter Simpkins, who makes sure that Moses Ivy lives on, and Vale Cemetery and all of that. It's great. And then, of course, it's been a lot of years, both on this side of the desk and the other side of the desk, of me being able to work with you. And we don't always agree, and it's okay, but we've always been able to talk. And whatever space that you get to show up in again, they will be fortunate to have you. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamaica. Bernice.
On June 2nd, I was invited to Central Park Middle School to talk to the 6th grade ELA class, and they were such student leaders. They came down, they greeted me, they brought me up, and then they took over the entire program. So they've been working on social justice for the last few months, I believe, and they have murals in the hallway. They've been talking a lot in the classroom about different types of social justice topics, and then the individual students decided on what social topic they want to address. So as a result of all the social justice work they've been doing, they've been inviting different members of the community to come in. So the students came up with the questions, so they asked me things like, do you like your job? Where do you go to school? How often do you get judged because of your skin color? Do you have kids? What are your names? It's not on the list. How old are you? So it was a lot of fun. But what was great to see—
Did you tell the truth?
I did. I did. I'm happy to be alive. So, but what was great about going into the classroom, and by the way, the two teachers are Miss O'Connor and Miss Brisbane, is that the students led the whole conversation. They even had a PowerPoint. They created it all. They had pictures, and I was like, oh, of me. They had information, and they all took turns asking these questions, and they probed, and it was just a really neat activity. And then afterwards, they went and they showed me the collage of different paintings and drawings that they had around social justice. So I thank them. Martha just sent me the cards that they made. I thank you so much for the students. You were wonderful. You were so student professional in the way that you held the conversation and the way that you organized how you were going to interact and talk with me. But it was wonderful. I had such a great time. Then also on June 2nd, as Nohalani mentioned, and Mr. O'Malley also was there, and we have shirts that they gave us, so we said that we were going to wear them. Yes, he has it on, yes. So we wanted, that event was so wonderful. The kind of going to what you said, Jamaica, the faces of our students when they accomplished and got recognition for the things that they did is just amazing. The program, and I do want to say this actually about all of the programs, all the programs were seamless. And I know there are things behind the scenes that we don't know, but sometimes when programs are done seamlessly, we forget there's a lot of people working on it. And there's a lot of phone calls, there's a lot of late nights, there's a lot of, oh my gosh, and I want to commend the events that I went to for all the hard work that you put in, from the teachers, from the paras, from the custodial staff, everyone, the central administration that were also there, because every event that I went to, there was at least one central administration person and a bunch of teachers, paras. So thank you, because it's not easy. As Mr. Superintendent Soler said, it's been a tough year, and people are tired. So I am very appreciative to see how everything unfolded. So I'm going to continue with some of the other events. But Scala was amazing. It was great. And there were many scholarships that were given, and one scholarship I do want to highlight is the Connie Bailey Award, and I hope I have that one right. Well, the Connie Bailey Award was conceived from the fact that the teacher unfortunately passed away, And what the staff did is that they developed a dress down day, and they raised money, and that money became a scholarship so they can give money to the students. It was amazing, and it was great to hear about Connie Bailey, but I thought that's a testament to the things that we do in Schenectady. Awesome event. The other event, June 6th, I attended kind of like the end, but Mr. O'Malley was there as well. It was the National Junior Honor Society induction, so I didn't see the entire event, but again, the faces of the families, there were many families that had attended. This is the program. And the students were so happy, and they also were a group that organized the program. It was under the advisory of Megan Eady. And actually, let me just kind of rewind. I do want to mention that the principal of Scala is Greg Phillips, and Greg Fields, thank you. And then the principal at Mount Pleasant is Mrs. Bayette. So, but Megan Eady was the advisor. It was 6th and 7th graders. She had mentioned to me that the students have to have an 85 or over to be able to be inducted into the National Junior Honor Society, and they've been working on this all year, and it was a very nice celebration as well. So kudos to the students, kudos to the advisor, and to Mount Pleasant Middle School. Then June 10th was the Cultural Fusion Night. That was a lot of fun. This was at Mount Pleasant Middle School, and I do want to give a lot of kudos to the whole, it was great to see the number of people were there. I think, and Dr. Cotto was there, you would say maybe 200 people, 150? It was 200, okay, 200, and Dr. Cotto was also in attendance, but the auditorium was packed. It was beautiful to see. The students' performance was wonderful. We even had a high school drumming group that came to Mount Pleasant. It was very nice. And the food, an abundance of food, from arroz con guandule, that's rice with peas, to plátanos, plantains, to, they had macaroni and cheese. I don't want to get people hungry, but it was a lot of food. It was very, very nice. It was just so great, again, to see the energy of the students, and it was awesome. I do want to give a shout out to the coordinator, and it was Sam, and I apologize if I mispronounce the name, Kishun. And then the parent liaison, Anna Robinson. They did a fantastic job. Kathy Lewis was there as well, Council President Marion Porterfield, Councilman Williams, Dr. Cotto, and also NAACP member Cynthia Farmer. So it was a great event. And then,
And you should see Bernice dance.
I've seen them.
She did the Caribbean dances.
yeah, so
On that note.
I know. But I do want to thank Superintendent Anibal, Board Member Nohalani, Board Member Jamaica had mentioned all the hard work that people have done throughout the year in Schenectady. It was hard. I know it was hard for many, a variety of reasons, right? It was the pandemic, the changes in education, the changes in administration and staff in general. It was just a lot going on. And we truly appreciate that you're still here and that you are passionate and dedicated to our students, and that you will continue, just from what we've seen, to continue to do the best for our students, because this is why every single one of us are here, right? So thank you, but please enjoy the summer, relax if you can, and just have some fun. So thank you so much. And then lastly, Ann Riley, thank you for your dedication to the board for many, many, many years. It's a lot of hard work, and I know a lot of people don't know all the work that goes into being a board member, and it takes some time to learn. It takes some time to really get to know that. So I thank you, because it's not easy, and you lasted for how long? You were here for a long time. And I don't mean it lasted. I mean, you decided it was a choice for you to be here for Schenectady, the city that we love, the district that we love. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you, Bernice. Ann.
Okay, so I just have a couple quick things, because everyone talked about all these wonderful events we've been having. I also attended the Blue Roses production, and I won the cake raffle. Well, okay, my husband did, to be fair.
That one.
So that was amazing to have that event back as part of Blue Roses. It was always a tradition. And I also wanted to thank our staff for this year and hope you all enjoy a wonderful summer. And I was thinking about, this is my last board meeting after 12 years on the board, and I've served with 14 different board members during that time. And the one thing I think we all have had in common is we all want to do what's best for our students. And I think that's really important. We, as Jamaica said, we may disagree about things, but we all want to do what's best for our children. And I think the other thing we've all had in common is we all have such tremendous respect and gratitude for our staff members. Because, and I was a parent in this district, so I can tell you how wonderful my kids' teachers and counselors and administrators all were to them, and the help they gave them and the support they gave them. So I just want to echo that thanks of my other board members, thanking our staff for all the great work they do. And as I'm leaving, I'm feeling pretty good about the fact that we have this man leading our district, and he has put together an amazing leadership team that I think we could not be leaving us in better hands for either for the teacher level or the administrator level. So I'm really feel like we're in a good place, and we're going to just keep rising, right, Anibal? So, and I want to thank everybody. And the last thing I want to remind people, if you've been here long enough, you would remember that when a former board member left, on his last meeting, he brought a guitar and played a song that he wrote and sang it, and it was about reading, and I promise not to do that. Which you would all be relieved to know if you've ever heard me sing. So, that's all.
Okay. It has been a busy 2 weeks. I tried to split myself into 2 or 3 or 5 different parts, but it didn't work. So I attended the TASC GED graduation with Jamaica, and there were over 70 graduates recognized from the last 3 years since that event had not been able to be held. And I have been able to come to it for the entire time I've been on the board, and it is uplifting to see the resilience, to recognize that resilience that it takes to have completed those degrees, and what those parents and grandparents want to demonstrate, and siblings too, but want to demonstrate to their to their families in terms of modeling the importance of education, and so I just find that quite uplifting. On June 3rd, I live very close by. I was pleased to watch the prom walk-in for the high school. I think we had a small version of it last year, but this year was more full-blown, and it really was. And I do commend all the staff who stayed with it, and started at 4:30, and I understand finished somewhere around 2:30 after they went to the prom, and the after party at the bowling lanes. The gowns were beautiful. I always admire the matching shoes that are worn by the men. It was quite the event. On June 5th, I went to SPAC to see the Festival of Young Artists, which I think is growing. It obviously, because of the pandemic, it was absent for a few years, but it was interesting. I got there, it started at 2 and went till after 5, I think, but right up front on the amphitheater stage was our orchestra from Yates, the Chime Orchestra, and then they had middle school students from Van Corlear. And then the third one was ESYO orchestra. At least it was pointed out to me, there were a couple of music teachers there, pointed out to me at least one trumpeter was from Schenectady High School. And I think that's something that we could really participate in more each year. There's really a close connection there, and it represents school districts from all around the Capital District. So it's quite the event on that Sunday afternoon, usually the first Sunday in June. I went to Senior Awards Night, and I was able to present a much smaller award to Leah Rajwant, whom you mentioned had received the Schenectady Foundation Award, and that also is exciting to see, and know that the students have received some rewards for their accomplishments. Pops Night was the next night, and another 2.5-hour event. I see Dennis out there shaking his head. I think he was standing in the corner the whole time, but Pops Night was a music fest. Piano started out with piano and then went to the choral groups and the other orchestral parts. Fusion Night, I've already commented on Bernice's dancing, and that was great. And I saw the play. I never ran into any of you guys at the play because I was there on Friday night. So I also thought that it was wonderful how well created these plays are, how they emphasize the resilience that many of the students have experienced, and well performed. I did not win the cake. I was not able to see the athletic honorary event on the field out here yesterday, but I imagine it was quite the success. I saw them setting up at 4, and I hope that there was a good turnout for it. And last of all, commenting on the ribbon cutting today, I was able to be down there, and it's so exciting to see some things happening in downtown Schenectady. I have been involved with trying to upgrade Schenectady for more than 20 years. When I started really as a city council member, and so the combination of work with SCCC and or SUNY Schenectady, I throw back to the old name, and Proctor's, and now the school district is exciting, and that was an exciting event, and I hope that it has real promise for the future. Okay, and now I come to something that's very happy and at the same time very sad, and I'm probably going to break down, because I have the honor to present to Anne the special recognition. Now, you have to understand that Anne and I have been here all 12 years together, and so the 14 people, I have to be the longest serving one, without a doubt. So let me stand up and present to you this resolution and this plaque.
I'm going to grab the wireless mic for you.
Okay. Come on.
You want to go up front?
Yeah, I'll go up front.
We're expecting a song, Ann. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Bring out the guitar.
July 1st, 2010, and subsequently re-elected to terms starting
After we do the.
I will entertain a motion for this resolution.
So moved. Nolani?
Noelani, second.
Second, Jamaica.
Second, Jamaica. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And now. Oh, she's abstaining. So we present you with this plaque in commemoration of the
Yep. Cut off, make it right. Oh, no. She was going to trip on you.
We should have brought vases to put those flowers in. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody. At this point, we have a contract update from Tony Brock.
So I just want to preface before Anthony Brock comes up, we don't normally do these out in this manner, but it was important because the board will be voting on this resolution tonight and wanted to give them enough opportunity to hear a summary of kind of the highlights of the agreement. And so I just want to make sure that it's not something we typically do, but I invited Anthony Brock to kind of give an overview. He serves as our labor relations lawyer, and so he helps us with some of these agreements. So Tony's got a couple slides that he's going to kind of overview. You did not see this before, so I do apologize, but if you can follow along. And we'll take some questions at the end, or as you go through. So thank you, Tony.
Has everybody seen the memorandum of agreement?
They should have seen it. Yep, it's in the hard copy in their folder. Yep. It's got the highlights
All right,
on it.
and
They have a pile of attachments, but yes.
okay, great. Good evening, everybody. And so I've been asked to prepare an overview of the collective negotiations with the Schenectady Administrators Association. And I don't want to read through the entire agreement on everybody. What I've done is highlighted different areas where the memorandum of agreement applies. And so when we go into collective negotiations, it's not just about salary and health insurance. It's about the entire collective bargaining agreement. And in there are a lot of things that deal with the operations of the district. And so there were a number of areas operationally that there were changes agreed to between the parties, which in our collective opinion as a bargaining team really bring enhancements to the district's ability to run the school district, to give the administrators the tools to help us run the district. And so we present this to you. And so the district's bargaining team was Mr. Soler, Ms. Marriott, Ms. Pugliese, myself, and Mr. Galuli. And what we ultimately agreed to was a 3-year agreement.
Yep, too fast.
All right.
You scroll back up for him? There you go.
All right. And it was, as bargaining goes, it was a great process. We were able to get the agreement done in 3 days of bargaining. It was hard work, but it was very good work. And so the Schenectady Administrators Association consists of somewhere, depending on when you measure it, between 66 and 72 people that help us run the district. And they're the certificated administrators in the district. They're very often the building principals, the assistant principals, and the folks that help us administer the operations of the district. And it's a critical bargaining unit. All bargaining units are critical, but these are the folks that are very often the face of the organization, the first face that a parent may go to in a time of need, that a child may go to in a time of need. And so the goal was to come up with a collective bargaining agreement that allows us to retain the most talented administrators and to recruit the most talented administrators, because that's what our students deserve. And so we've got a great staff now. We want to keep them, and we want to bring them in. And we've made, or are proposing to make, some very major changes in their collective bargaining agreement and their ability to help us administer the district. And so some of the highlights that we've reached: increasing managerial rights and services to children by creating a 12-month work year. And so for the most part, these employees were 11-month employees. In the switch to a 12-month work year provides us with greater operational efficiency. It provides financial advantages to both the district and union membership. And in this process, in coming to this agreement, we were to enhance labor relations through the good work that both sides did in the collective bargaining process. And so when we talk about operations of the school district, there are a number of things that I label under management rights that we were able to achieve in this collective bargaining agreement. And so one of them has to do with professional development. There was a destination requirement that part of professional development was to take place in Lake George or some other destination. We were able to change that. And so now all professional development will take place here in the district. And so obviously it creates greater efficiency, and we've got all our district resources here at the same time. Another change is having administrators attend Board of Education meetings. The administrators agreed that any administrator can be required to attend a meeting upon 24 hours notice. And so if there's something new that has come up, if there's short-term notice where the board wants to hear from an administrator, we now have the ability to request that they come on short notice. Another big change, and this is both an operational change but also going to be a financial savings over time. They had a provision in their collective bargaining agreement that they all received district-issued cell phones. And so that's also been eliminated. And the only unit members that get cell phones are those who are determined by the superintendent to need a cell phone for district operations. The other change that we were able to achieve in that provision, cell phones were able to be used for personal use. And that's not always the best practice. And so if a cell phone is issued by the district, it's strictly limited to business use. And so obviously that's important for the district, but it also controls the records of the district. It controls the communications. And so if there's FOIL requests for phone records or messages or all of that, we want that centralized within district operations. And so we're able to do that as well. And then the creation of the 12-month work year is really the big cornerstone of this collective bargaining agreement. And so this is the only language that I put in here to go through in detail, because I think it's important for everybody to understand, what does the new work year look like? And so it consists of 260 work days. The unit members are expected to work during all school breaks. And so now when there may be activities during the breaks, when there's cleaning going on, whatever the situation may be, we have administrators that are going to be in the buildings. They get 14 holidays defined in their contract, and they get 25 vacation days. And so what was eliminated from their old contract, what was termed as non-work days. And so what we've created is a more standardized work year, if you will, with vacation time and the types of things that you see in other districts and you see in the private sector. The administrators will be able to roll over up to 5 vacation days until the next year, and then to make sure we don't have too many administrators out at any one time. Their supervisors have a lot of discretion as to when the vacation days will be used. And so if it's not going to affect district operations, their supervisors will generally approve it, and what we agreed to was permission will not be unreasonably withheld. And then you've got the carryover language or cash out up to 5 vacation days a year. So that provision has the administrators here for 12 months now instead of 11 months, but it also gives them the quality of life in the work balance through use of vacation time, through use of the holidays, and it presents overall better working conditions for the unit members. Then some other operational items that we were able to achieve. We made a change to open enrollment to be consistent with the other bargaining units that had been spread out different times of the work year, and we're trying to standardize all of that. The same thing which you'll see in number 15 of the MOA. The pay dates are moving to semi-monthly and via direct deposit. And then the other sort of operational things or housekeeping items you'll see in paragraphs 1, 17, 18, and 19. And it just brings the collective bargaining agreement up to date. The enhancements for the employees language, you'll see that we added domestic partner language for health insurance. In paragraph 7, you'll see we added choices among the dental plans, and the 12-month work year is a win-win for both sides in our estimation. And then financial considerations. So there were a number of things we were able to put in that helped the district on the financial side of things. And so in paragraph 8, there was a clarification in their language that the payments toward their dental insurance do not count towards the major medical deductible. That was inconsistent with some other plans, and so we were able to make that change. Another big one for the district. With the other bargaining units and with the management confidential employees, we had been eliminating the HMO programs, which are much more expensive to the district than the Patriot Red and Patriot Blue health plans. And so with the administrators, the HMO comes out July 1st of this year. And so CDPHP is no longer going to be an option for this bargaining unit. And they represent the last bargaining unit to beyond that. So going forward, we have no more HMO plans that are offered in the district, which provide significant savings going forward. Premium contributions paid by the employees. They've agreed to add a total of 2% over the life of the agreement to their contributions, and that will represent employees paying 20% for a family plan and 17% of the premium for an individual plan. And those numbers are not only consistent, but I would say at the top of what is happening in the region in other school districts. Another savings for the district, we agreed to language that retirees must sign up for the district's Medicare Advantage plan upon reaching age 65. That was not mandatory before. That's always a win-win for both the employee and the district, but having mandatory language is definitely a win for the district and will represent savings going forward and to help contain legacy costs. We also increased the health insurance buyout to further entice unit members to decline district-sponsored health insurance. And then salaries. We wanted to put something forward, like I said, that allows us to not only keep but recruit the best administrators in the area. And so for the additional 1 month that they're now working, all salaries for the 11-month employees who become 12-month employees were increased by 10%. And that's something that was already in the collective bargaining agreement through an MOA when 11-month employees did become 12-month employees, and there were a few of them. And then on top of that, each year of the agreement has an additional salary increase, and as you can see, on July 1, 2022, it goes up 4%, and then 3.5% in the second and third years. And so with a 3-year agreement, it allows the district to reassess its financial situation at that time, look at funding, and renegotiate the contract in a shorter term rather than a longer term. And so it's the collective opinion of the district's bargaining team that this agreement represents a fiscally sound agreement that makes the district more competitive when recruiting new employees and keeping our valuable employees. It creates what we see as a very significant change, bringing the employees to a 12-month work year. And I'm very happy to report that the tone and tenor of negotiations was outstanding. It was collaborative. Each side advocated very hard for their respective sides, but it was a respectful dialogue that ended up in
Any questions for Mr. Brock?
I have one question, just, I don't math well. Can you scroll up a quick second? Pause and hold. Good. For number 14, just make sure I'm understanding right, because I may not be. So they receive a 10% salary increase because they're switching to 12-month. And in the same year, they also get the 4% increase because it's 2022?
correct.
Okay,
So the current agreement expires June 30th of this year,
okay.
and that represents July 1 of the next fiscal year that they get the 4% on top.
Yeah, and the 10% was already a provision in the thing, and so the base is all changed to 10% up more because that was already something that was there. So for example, if a starting salary was 85 in the current contract, because they're 12-month, there's a 10% adjustment to the base of everybody, and then it goes the steps that you get on a year-to-year basis. I don't know if that helps clarify.
Can you draw me a picture? No.
I'll try my best.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Question number 11. I was just curious if you can share, what was the contribution before? I believe it was number 11.
So 18% and 15%.
It was 18 and 15.
So it went up 2%.
Yep. Okay. So, okay. And then the other question I have, and this is just out of curiosity because I don't remember what number it was, but when you were talking about vacation requests, because they're no longer going to be 10-month or 11-month employees, it's 12-month employees, and it's changed now to requesting vacation days. Was there a discussion about what that process will look like? Because it's different than what it was done before. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, could we go back up to the, he's helping me out, so they.
Yeah, so
a
Bernice,
little
just
further.
from,
Thank you.
I'll let Tony answer, but just from a simplistic processing, the principal will approve the vacation time of the assistant principal. The difference with vacation time is that it's not bound to when kids are out. You know, there could be times they take a Thursday, Friday as a vacation day. Again, as long as it is not viewed as disrupting the operations of the district. And again, the supervisor would provide, so the principals would approve the assistant principals. You know, Tyrone O'Mealy would approve the high school principal. You know, that's kind of work. And then for us, the discretion would be that as long as we can operate and not be disruptive, then, you know, there really shouldn't be a reason to deny it. But for example, let's say, you know, you're at one school and 3 assistant principals are all out and someone else has to go out, then you probably say, no, I'm going to deny because it just impacts our operations. And so that's kind of the discretion. I think there was a 2-week timeline.
It's a 2-week
that's
notice
required.
provision if you're going to take more than one day.
Correct.
And so it really helps everybody plan ahead to make sure that the buildings and operations are adequately covered.
In the old contract language, everyone was forced to take so many days in the summer. And then every time we were off for a break, no administration was in a building, whether it was spring break or whether it was winter break, you know. And so when we ran some of our programming, some of that, you know, there was really no administrator on duty. And so we also know that some of that time is used to catch up on paperwork and operations, professional development. That'll give us some flexibility. If folks want it to work, they don't have to, but they can take off as well.
Thank you. I guess I just have a comment. It's not a question. The process reminds me of our power as a body for other advocacy at the state level, and us looking for, are there pieces of legislation that if we weren't supportive of them, and I know we do stuff through NISBA around legislative stuff, that we can lend our voice to that would be beneficial for both those who are employees and us fiscally responsible. Healthcare being a huge issue all of the time, and change that is needed at the state and federal level. So it just was a flag for me, like as we're moving forward and things come up, looking for those moments, like, is there legislation that already exists that we within this body have this power to advocate for and to add our voices to? There's all kinds of organizations doing the work. We don't have to do the work. We can just be like, yes, add our name in support. And so it just was the thing that popped in my head.
There are some insurance things that are significant and have been advocated for, particularly for the smaller school districts, rural school districts, ways that they can form consortiums or be parts of consortiums.
I'm thinking of healthcare as a human right and free healthcare for all, but that's just me.
Okay, not that far along.
For later conversations.
And then, Tony, I actually did have one more question, and it's not a biggie, just curious, out of curiosity, number 6, domestic partnership.
So that language was not clear in the contract. It's something that the district recognized, but we clarified the language in both the health insurance and the dental.
Okay, so it would it be similar to the employee?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, congratulations, and thank you for your
The
service.
action will be taken later on the resolution. All right, we're now at the third quarter academic report.
Okay. Anne, congratulations and thank you for your service. Enjoy. My husband's last board meeting was last night, so I can relate. We went home and had a little champagne. So enjoy your newfound free time. I am so proud of Dr. Lorinda Chisholm and Dr. Sean Mason. This is their third academic report, and I also appreciate the comments by the board to say that this has been a really hard year, and you'll see that reflected in our data. I hope you have heard over and over, this is a baseline year, and we do not plan to live here. But just kudos and hats off to Dr. Chisholm and Dr. Mason for showing us the truth of where we're at, where our strengths are, where our deficits are, and also this does not tell the story of all the things that are going on. We're doing great things here in Schenectady. Sometimes it doesn't always come out in our data, but I can tell you, you will see an improvement in this with all the great things that are going on. So without further ado, Dr. Chisholm.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Solaire, Board President Lewis, esteemed board members, and happy early Juneteenth. Well, we're going to get started here with our third academic. Is this working? I don't know. It's a green light. I can't even hear you.
There's a button on the side of it, he said, if you change it. I think it was at the point, scrolling up versus.
This one? Well, I'll just get started. So while the work around teaching and learning encompasses really all 4 of our pillars.
You get to do next slide, please.
I'm just going to go like this, and that'll be our nonverbal cue. But if you wouldn't mind advancing the slide, please. Thank you. Advance, please. So again, while the work around teaching and learning really encompasses all four of these pillars, this presentation around our academic data will really address the student and graduation success, passionate people, as well as the efficient systems and equitable resources. Advance, please. Sorry, I gotta do the nonverbal cue. So our spring 2022 ELA assessments were administered this past February. And as part of our strategic plan, the Student and Graduation Success Pillar, it really aims to increase the performance index, or the PI, for grade 3 English language arts. The ELA interims are used, as I always share, as a leading indicator to determine if we are on target for reaching our end-of-year MIP target of 101. And this chart indicates the performance index for the grade 3 ELA interims for the fall 2021-22 administration, the winter 21-22, and our spring 21-22 administration. And the district average, as well as the target for the end of the year 2021-22 school year, are represented in this chart. As you can see, based on this chart, all schools improved their ELA interim performance indicators, or index, showing an upward trajectory toward the district's ELA MIP target from the winter to the spring administration, along with the total district. According to this chart, Zoller has met the projected MIP target on the spring administration, with Page very close behind. And I want to point out that Page also demonstrated the greatest increase between the winter and spring administration windows, with a 55 percentage point increase. Again, we want to highlight that every one of our elementary schools are moving in the right direction. As a progress monitoring tool, our ELA interim data assists buildings to evaluate student learning and determine necessary interventions for identified students. And just as a gentle reminder, the ELA interims were not administered at all last school year. So this chart here shows the ELA comparison data for the percentage of students by proficiency levels, as well as the percentage of students tested versus not tested from each of this year's administration windows. As we know, level 3 and 4 are considered our proficient on this assessment. And as we can see, there was a slight increase in the number of students that demonstrated proficiency, level 3 and 4, from 17.45% in the fall of 2021 to 21.73% during the winter 21 administration, demonstrating a proficiency gain of approximately 4.28 percentage points to 25.57 percentage points of students that are proficient on the ELA interims. In the spring, which is also a gain of 3.84%. And again, while a slight increase, our data is moving in the right direction. Here we further disaggregate the data to look at proficiency levels. Again, those students who scored a level 3 or 4 at each grade level. And this chart illustrates comparison between the October 21, December 2021, and our February 2022 administration windows on the ELA interims. And as shown in this chart, grades 3, 4, 5, and 6 have shown an increase in the percent of students demonstrating proficiency, with the greatest increase among our grade 5 students of 14.69 percentage points, followed by grade 6 and 3 at 12.73 and 12.64 percentage points, respectively. And grades 2, 7, and 8 show decline for the most recent ELA administration. So when we look at our ELA interim assessment data by our New York State recorded demographic groups, what immediately stands out is that the greatest percentage of our students are at level 1 across all demographic groups. That's race, gender, our students with disabilities, as well as our English language multilingual learners. You will notice we have the denominator displayed this time for better context, as we discuss percentages here. But by race, our Asian students had the greatest percentage of students proficient at 35.66%, followed by our white students at approximately 30.36%, while the least number of students proficient are American Indian or Alaskan Native at 20%. By gender, our males and females are somewhat comparable, with proficiency rates among our females approximately 29%, and our males approximately 22%, and about an 8.11 percentage point difference. And while our students with disabilities and our English language learners have a proficiency rates of approximately 4% and 7%, respectively. Now, this not only highlights the fact that nearly, inversely, 78% of our students with disabilities, and 86% of our Ls are not proficient. But also 65 to 80% of our remaining students by demographic groups do not demonstrate proficiency. It should also be noted that nearly 20% of our students with disabilities did not participate in the ELA interim spring assessment. Now with the math interims, this year the math interims were only administered twice, in January and again in March. Also, as part of our strategic plan, the Student and Graduate Success Pillar aims to increase the Performance Index, or PI, for grade 3 mathematics. And like ELA, the math interims are used as a leading indicator to determine if we are on target for reaching our goal at the end of the year, and the Performance Index is also based on a scale from 0 to 200. This chart indicates the Performance Index for math interims for 3rd grade for both the January and the spring 2022 administration windows. The district average and the target for the end of the 2021-22 school year are also represented in the chart at 88.84. And based on this chart, 9 of our schools showed improvement on their math interim PIs from the winter to the spring administration, as well as the district. According to this chart, 3 of our schools, Hamilton, Woodlawn, and Zoller, have met the projected target based on their spring interim assessments, while one school remained the same, and one of our elementary schools saw a slight decrease. As a progress monitoring tool to assess how students will perform on the New York State math assessment, the math interim data also assists buildings to evaluate student learning and put appropriate academic intervention services in place for identified students. So the math interims were not administered in the fall of 2021 and fall 2022. And looking at comparative performance data by levels for the math interims this year, 11.57% of students grades 3 through 8 were proficient on the math interims during the winter 2022 versus spring 2022 that showed 16.59%. So we can see there was a slight increase in the percentage of students proficient of approximately 5%. This chart depicts the percentage of students that are proficient at each grade level. Again, the level 3 and 4 for this assessment. And what it illustrates is the math interim assessment comparison data between the January and the March administration. And as shown, grades 3, 6, 7, and 8 have seen an increase in the percentage of students proficient, while grades 4 and 5 showed a slight decline. Both grades 3 and 7 have the greatest percentage of student proficiency rates, and I also want to note that the grade levels with the increase nearly doubled their proficiency rates. And like the ELA, the math interim assessment data is also reported by New York State recorded demographic groups, and what immediately stands out is that, again, the greatest percentage of our students at level 1 shows up across all demographic groups. By race, our Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander students have the greatest percentage of students proficient at 22.22%, all level 3s, followed by our Asian students at approximately 15%, while our American Indian and Alaska Native had no students who were proficient, 80% of whom are level 1s, representing the largest racial group at level 1. If we continue to look at the percentage of students who performed at level 1, we notice a range of 42% to 57% across racial groups, an average of half the students tested in each group. By gender, our male and female performance remains comparable with the proficiency rates among males at approximately 29.46% and females at 26.98%, also with nearly half those tested by gender performing at a level 1. While our students with disabilities and English language learners both have proficiency rates of approximately 2.99 and 3.8% respectively, again acknowledging higher rates of absences due to COVID quarantine. It's also important to note that for the math interim assessments, nearly 40% of our students with disabilities did not test. Nearly a third of our Ls, males, white, multiracial, and Hispanic students did not test. Like ELA, we need to dig a little bit deeper into why such a large number or percentage of our students, specifically students with disabilities, are not testing. So we know education is like the slowest form of civil rights, so we have to move strategically and with a shared sense of purpose. We too must move with a sense of urgency as well. And as W. Recknick always reminds us to always go back to our why, and these faces on the screen are our why. Our why must always begin and end with our students in mind and their best interests, especially as we develop them from littles to young scholars, helping them to achieve success, however success may be defined for them. So the so what, now what? So what are we doing to address this data and make systemic changes that support our students? The first thing we've done as a district is we've moved to Iready as our math and Ela assessment tool. So this is the last year of using STAR data. Why? Iready was found to be, after being vetted, most culturally and linguistically responsive. Also, it's more diagnostic and aligned to the science of reading. And it provides more immediate data for real-time instructional shifts and helps teachers with providing purposeful groupings as they move forward towards the AIS, Academic Intervention Service shift. We've also worked with building leaders to revise a master scheduling that supports our students and gives them more contact time with teachers. We've integrated mandatory academic intervention services for both ELA and math for our students who perform at level 1s and 2s as required by the state, as well as integrating an algebra math lab for 9th graders for those 8th grade students who move up but may not have been very proficient in math in 8th grade. So providing the supports for them. And I'm gonna call up my Director of Intervention Services, Erica McFarland, to talk about the concentrated collaboration and supports between the Office of Teaching Learning and Student Support Services around MTSS and intervention services.
Okay, so as you've probably heard in other presentations, we are working on ensuring that we have a solid MTSS plan, and what we're working on is making sure that our students have really solid Tier 1 instruction, and then that they have access to the Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction that we need, which would be provided through the AIS in reading for our students so that we can close all educational opportunity gaps.
Erica, what's MTSS stand for?
Multi-tiered systems of support. So what that really entails is making sure that students have their social, emotional, their behavioral, attendance, and academic needs met. So the new reading curriculum that we're having will help address in elementary our Tier 1 reading. We have social, emotional curriculum K-8 starting next year. PBIS in many of our buildings addressing attendance. And if you look, can I talk about 4? Okay, so in the chart over here on the right, oh, nope, yep, nope. Next one, 14, slide 14. So if you look at this chart here, this is a distribution of resources that Superintendent Soler asked us to do. Previously, Gen Ed Continuum and other supports were not done in a real data way. They were really done by a building saying, I have this amount of money, I want a social worker. Another building might have said, well, I need a reading teacher. And so there was a lot of disparities. An example would be that Zoller and Woodlawn, which are some of our bigger schools, had 1 reading teacher each. Now, their need may not be as high as the data indicates. However, 1 reading teacher couldn't possibly serve the number of students who need reading. So we used a formula to determine, based on the data, based on the ELA scores and the math scores and on the reading scores, to determine how many interventionists each building would need to meet the requirements of students performing at certain levels. So the level 1 and 2 in ELA and math, and then below the 11th percentile in reading. So this is a distribution of where it's going to be for next year. There were some budget additions, but if you look at it, it's much more equitable than it was compared to years past. The reason that some buildings might be getting more might be they're bigger, but it might also be that their need is bigger, depending on the scores of their students. So these decisions were all based on data.
Thank you, Erica. And that also leads to, and if you can advance to the next slide, please. And then we'll go back. And we also wanted to show you a sample grade 1 student schedule versus a sample middle school grade 7 a student schedule, so you can kind of see where the small groups with the wit and wisdom, how much time is dedicated to each intervention versus the wit and wisdom, et cetera, to see where it fits in on a student schedule. So we just want to give you guys an idea of what we're looking to implement for next year and what it might look like for our students. If you could go back one, please. So the last pillar, passionate people, this is what the staffing really leads to. So Erica did share about how we decided to move forward with our AIS teachers and our reading interventionists. But the board and school community approved our Office of Teaching and Learning budget of just over $1.9 million. And this not only supports the purchase of their new assessment tool as well as our new K-5 district-wide literacy program, but it also supports the staffing that we need to support our district's instructional program design and our struggling learners. And so we, the Office of Teaching and Learning, as the directors, assistant directors, along with our building leaders, our executive directors, and those teachers who have been serving on countless interview committees, want to ensure you that we are not simply looking for a certification and a pulse. Okay, we are very intentional about with whom we are recommending and entrusting to serve in these very critical roles to serve the needs of our students. So we wanted to make sure that we share that and that we communicate that, and we're very transparent about the work that we are doing and those next steps that are critical that we'll be implementing for the 22-23 school year. And now I'll bring up Dr. Sean Mason.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Slide 17, please.
Just Sean, make sure the mic's on for people at home can hear you.
Absolutely, sir. No problem. It's on. Good stuff. All right. So between slides 17 and slides 18, you can advance it one, and then we'll go back to 17. You'll see that we have increased attendance for all of our schools. You go back to slide 17, please. So as usual, I try to find out what went right and what went wrong with attendance. For quarter one, we saw it around 80%. Quarter two, we saw a decline across the board for every school, but I think we know why due to COVID. And in quarter three, we saw that gradual increase back to around 80% for every school building, especially K through 6. So let's try to find out why. So I reached out to school buildings to try to find out what went right. And I asked every school building what went right. And this is a busy time of the school year, so the responses that I received were maybe 10 out of 16 buildings. So at Mount Pleasant for sixth grade, they have an attendance committee created on a tiered plan. They increased the number of attendance celebrations and home visits. Named Tanya Thomas is our attendance specialist, and she's been very instrumental. Additionally, we created plans on each team in grades 7 and 8 to identify students of concern and created individualized plans. So what is kind of built into the presentation. At the high school, the block schedule change allowed us to focus on students only having 4 classes a day instead of 8, and significantly reduced the number of hallway transitions. Finally, we significantly enhanced our hall check system, which included immediate and progressive consequences, increased communication with families, and a change in the way we utilized our culture and community engagement specialists, or CCESs. We spent much of quarter three assessing and supporting systems we put into place in the fall. The biggest change alone for quarter three was the introduction of the safety team members to the hallways. Their constant presence has provided much needed assistance to our systems. At Van Corlear, stated first, the quarantine of students who sat in 6-foot radius was lifted. Also, in an effort to increase student attendance, our attendance team started a few new things. Made me proud to hear what she said. Teachers greet families at the door and ask what the barriers were. Some included getting up in time, greeting students, getting motivated at the door to leave the house. We then assessed some ways to remove those barriers and what they would be. They held an assembly to stress the importance of being here. We changed our morning and afternoon slogan to include that piece and added a new program called the Tiger Cub of the Month. This program allows at least one student from each class to be chosen each month for showing the school traits responsible, respectful, kind, and here. So it's a PBIS, shout out. Our attendance team reached out directly to some parents that had students chronically absent to emphasize the importance as well as the assist in removing barriers. At Hamilton, they've been holding attendance team meetings weekly with our attendance liaison and Jason Belknap. Home visits have been made by teachers, social workers, and administrators, meeting with parents where they feel most comfortable. The examples were listed in the response. Stewart's, McDonald's, etc., meeting the families where they were. They hotline for extreme cases that were taken. So they spoke to parents about home instruction versus being in school. We kept up on phone calls for the districts to make sure that those students were not showing up, were enrolled in other districts, so that their attendance would not affect ours. Students wrote letters to their friends, encouraging them to come back to school and told them they were missed at school. At Kane, again, the improvements were around the attendance team meeting weekly to monitor weekly attendance rates by grade level and building, and creating family support plans for those in most need. COVID restrictions decreased and more students were able to test to return with less days lost. They fine-tuned their attendance coding system in Infinite Campus to support family communication. Step 1, enter absent or present by 9 a.m. with preset comment codes. Step 2, 9:15, a robocall goes out to those families. Step 3, an attendance parent makes all updates in Infinite Campus. Step 4, if they don't hear from a parent, a phone call is made. If the parent does not respond or the child is absent for more than 2 days, the child's name is brought to our attendance team on the weekly Monday meetings. And she provided evidence of her increases in total attendance. Week 25 was March 7th through March 11th. She was at 84.68%. Week 26 from March 14th through 18, 89.36%. Week 27, 87.33. Week 28, 84.62. Week 29, 85.43. So those attendance teams meetings were working. At Pleasant Valley, again, they have an attendance team that meets bi-weekly. At those meetings, they look at the year-to-date attendance and review individual students who fall below a specific percentage. This year, we've been in triage mode, and that rate's around 70%. They discuss if there's a known cause in the absence. At SCLA, for next year, we are developing a comprehensive plan for attendance and having Mr. Chank included in the SCEP. For this year, we reactively and albeit without total consistency relied upon the following to address attendance letters, weekly pupil parent support meetings, engagement specialist home visits, call from an attendance paraprofessional, teachers working on culturally responsive education, and work with agencies such as CPS or probation. At Oneida Middle School, Mr. Farina attributed all of his progress to Ms. Leah Hall. Since January, I've compiled attendance lists from Infinite Campus to identify chronically absent students per grade. Next, she's reached out to each level administrator, social worker, and counselor to compare the data. Lastly, I've sat in on team meetings to identify students that were coming into school but having difficulty engaging in classes. I provided face-to-face check-ins with those students as well as reached out to parents to provide additional support. At MLK, they have been increasing their home visits to work with families to remove the barriers. That's a reoccurring thing, we're removing barriers that are preventing them from sending their child to school. At Lincoln, they followed a PBIS structure with clear expectations in every space of the school. We have practiced in each space with what being safe, respectful, and responsible sounds and looks like. For Tier 2 students, they had daily additional check-ins, informal check-in connects, and made numerous phone calls home to families with poor attendance asking how we can help connecting families to community resources when appropriate. Very important. We've worked to help families with transportation, food, clothing, school supplies, or whatever we can to help the students and families feel comfortable and connected to the school. We've invited anyone who could be of assistance to the family, and they mentioned by name Mr. Alex Torres. Next slide, please. Again, we still see the increase. I'm proud and I smile because weekly I check the data around attendance and core course failures, and I check those things out weekly, and I send out an email when we don't have attendance put in for specific students or any student. So I sent out a lovely email to the ELT members and to the principals saying this is where we are and this is who I've contacted. I celebrated the zeros, and I sent a reminder email to those who have not, they don't have zero for their attendance being put in. Next slide, please. We're at course passing. We are going to look at these beautiful babies here, and slide 20. We're going to notice that from quarter 2 to quarter 3, we see more green on this board. That was very important for me to see that, because when we say Schenectady Rising, this is what it looks and sounds and feels like. We looked at quarter 1, and compared to quarter 3, we've seen some vast improvements. There's a few pieces highlighted in yellow. I want to denote those because it shows a slight increase of about 1 in each instance you see at Pleasant Valley, whereas they have 1 more student who failed 2 courses, and at How they had 1 more student who failed 3 or more courses. However, we're going to highlight How. We're going to go to our far left and look at the number of passing all courses. At How, you have 388 students. 306 of those students, or 79%, of those students are passing every course. This chart shows the number of students that received a level 1 in 1 course, 2 courses, or 3 or more courses, as well as the number of students that passed all courses. The number next to the building represents the number of enrollment during quarter 3. For 1 course failure, 6 schools saw a decrease in the number of course failures from quarter 1 to quarter 2, and 8 schools saw an increase for quarter 3. For 2 course failures, 9 schools saw a decrease in the number of course failures or remained the same from quarter 2 to quarter 3. 1 remained constant, and 4 schools saw an increase. For 3 or more failures, 11 schools saw a decrease in the number of course failures or remained the same from quarter 2 to quarter 3. 2 remained constant, and 1 saw an increase. Slide 21, please. Here at Mount Pleasant, we still see the far left, the number in grades 7 and 8. However, they increased by 7 with 1 course failure, had a slight increase in 3 or more course failures, had a slight decrease in 2 or more courses failing. For 1 course failure, 3 schools saw a decrease in the number of course failures from quarter 2 to quarter 3. 1 school remained stable, and 2 schools saw an increase. For 2 course failures, 4 schools saw a decrease in the number of course failures from quarter 2 to quarter 3, and 2 schools saw an increase. For 3 or more course failures, all schools saw an increase in the number of course failures from quarter 2 to quarter 3, and 3 saw a decrease. For grades 9 through 12, the total number of IEs in quarter 1 was 4,515, not noted up on the board. Quarter 2 saw a decrease to 1,846, and quarter 3 saw 1,652. Next slide, please. Oh, go back 1 slide, please. I'm sorry. Hamilton, Kane, Mount Pleasant, Pleasant Valley, and Woodlawn also a decrease in the number of course failures for 1, 2, and 3 courses. Howe had 306 out of 388 students pass every class. Yates had 215 out of 327 students pass every class and saw a decrease in 2 and 3 course failures. Mount Pleasant had 157 out of 256 sixth graders to pass every class and saw a decrease in 2 and 3 course failures. Howe saw an increase in 1 course failures, but 78.87% of their students are passing every class, and they saw a reduction in the number of 2 course failures. The number of students of Howe that failed 3 or more classes rose from by 1 to 26.27, which is still lower in percentage points at 6.96% as compared to quarter 2. Again, I reached out and I wanted to find out what happened. I'm going. 6th grade teams work close with one another, and they're doing successful work where they share curriculum, best practices. They serve as both formal and informal mentors for one another. At MLK, our support room is working for many of our children. At Pleasant Valley, we have used hits and misses. It's a protocol to analyze data, short cycle assessment, benchmarking data, and to create instructional plans throughout the year. At Yates, they have a culture that supports individual student goal setting, individual teacher goal setting. They use the DO4 model, which DO4 work around PLCs. It's based around 4 questions and 4 pillars. What do we expect our children to learn? How do we know they've learned it? How will we respond when some students do not learn? How will we extend and enrich learning for our students who have demonstrated proficiency? Next slide. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. At SCLA, they attribute the improvements to supports as opposed to development to the direct instruction, Saturday school, targeted after-school tutoring. Central Park saw an increase, but they are working with their counselors and supporting their teachers and their students with increased supports. This slide shows the number of students with course failures by grade level. What stood out to me was grade 9, so I reached out to the high school, and they said to improve for quarter 4, they've created a biology lab with makeup schedules during and after school to address those who are struggling with lab completion and Regents eligibility. We expanded our math lab after school intervention program to be able to focus more on students in more focused ways. Our 9th grade admin team has focused on identifying those first-time 9th grade students who needed intervention through a parent conference, school-based support team meetings, or through development or refinement of an 504 or an IEP. Next slide, please. Next slide. This slide represents the past 3 cohorts of graduates as well as our current 21-22 graduates. Percentages represented by each dark blue line bar include both June and August graduates. What's important to note here is that in quarter 3, we are anticipating 76%, which should be on an increase, Mr. Shank and Mr. Green, which should be increased by next month, or this month actually. And last year, we were at 73% for our June graduates and around 80% for August graduates. Next slide, please. Questions or comments?
Any questions?
Just quickly, the third quarter graduation is just June, so August hasn't happened yet, so the number you see there looks lower, but the dark blue is June and August total, so that 78 is higher for that reason. So just wanted to clarify that piece. Okay. And then Lorinda and Dr. Mason to take any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Somebody?
Yeah, I can start. I have several, so I'll let other folks come in, but Dr. Chisholm. So slide number 5, the grade 3 interim report.
Yes.
I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about, you know, how was the target determined? Is that NAEP or is that a school district target?
The state determines their target.
The state, so with
It's
this
a
one,
MIP
it's the state,
target.
okay, okay, so that was it.
Yeah, it is the MIP.
Okay, it is NAEP, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, and then slide number 6. And you mentioned some, but I'm just curious if we can explore this a little bit more. My question is, what continued interventions are you using for level 1? And this is slide 6, so let me see.
Yep. You said what continued interventions?
Yeah, what kind of interventions are we doing?
Do we want to talk about that, Erica?
For this year?
Yes.
You want to know what we're currently doing? Well, this year, we do have some GEC teachers still in place from our programming. Hiring was very challenging this year, so unfortunately, we did have some vacancies in those positions because those teachers had to go into classrooms. But primarily in the elementary, the GEC teachers focused on ELA and support those students. And the current model right now is co-teach, so they're working in the classroom with the teachers, but next year we're moving to more of a pull-out, more targeted support for students, and a smaller group size.
Thank you. Then, slide number 8. So, it was a slide, I don't think it was slide number 8, let's see.
The demographic data slide?
Yeah, I might come back to that because I'm
Okay.
not sure. So I actually have questions on slide 10. So my question here, because Zoller seems to really be, you know, doing well. So I'm wondering, are there strategies, initiatives, programs that seem to be working at Zoller that can be translated into the other schools, or is it a staffing difference? Because I know there are many variables that can kind of make it very different. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, if you have any information.
I did not reach out to Zoller to see
Okay.
what they were doing differently
Okay.
compared to the other schools, but Zoller has seemed to be the school, when you look at the math and ELA over the various administration windows throughout the school year, to be outperforming. But that would be something that I could definitely look into and share that out with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, and we also got to ask Dr. JP, how did he get that growth? I mean, 40 to 95.21.
Yeah.
I mean, I also want you guys to take some of this for face value. That second administration, that was we were, you know, quarantined, a lot of kids were in and out. So, you know, these things inform our work, but they shouldn't necessarily predict 100% of our work.
That's
You
right.
know, so I just want us to make sure that, but we'll definitely follow up with those folks, see
Absolutely.
what's figuring out. And we have Dr. PJP in the back there, we can go plug his ear and figure out how you move 45 points in one administration, so.
Yeah. And then I have a question, and you mentioned some things, but slide number 11, do you know anything about the students who did not take the exams? And you alluded to it, you did talk a little bit about that.
It could have been student attendance, the quarantine, and that's really pretty much our attendance issues are due to quarantine.
Okay.
But I'll stop right there, because
Okay.
I thought you were going to go into
Some
something else
are
with
opt-outs
demographics.
too, some parents said they don't want to
Okay,
take them, you know, there's some of that.
That hasn't been significant.
Well,
for
yeah, I mean,
us.
but we do have it, we do
It's-
have folks.
Yeah, but it's more attendance.
Right.
I suspect.
Right, it's
Yeah.
more
I mean,
attendance.
quarantining and
Exactly,
illness and
the
stuff.
COVID.
And I think along that line, you had talked about Iready, right? The
Yes.
math tool, and you, master scheduling, the AIS sections, and I'm jumping ahead, but with those small groups, and I'm not sure, with the small groups, the AIS small groups, and then you mentioned the other small groups, what are we hoping those small groups look like? Because that's really subjective too, so I was just wondering.
So we're really hoping to marry all that, right? So the Iready assessments are really going to help when students take the assessment. It's online, it's diagnostic, they get the results right away, so the teachers can use that. And what is really nice about Iready is it gives the teachers the immediate feedback that they need in terms of what skills the students need to really focus and hone in on. And those are pieces that those teachers can focus on in AIS as well as in classroom instruction. The point about AIS is that it will be very small and focused based on the skills that the students need to be supported in. There should be no more than 12, at the most 15 students in the AIS section. Hopefully have it smaller, but that was why we strategically did the number of teachers we did for the schools based on the number of students who fall in level 1s and 2s. But it's going to be very intensified so that we can close that gap and help students be able to be supported in the Tier 1 instruction that's happening in the classroom while focusing on the skill deficit that they need to move forward.
Thank you. I'll pause here. I do have more, but I'll let.
Okay.
Hogging the
Well,
stage.
Bernice got at least two of mine, but I do have a question that's not actually related to the data, but we asked for those N numbers, but now when I'm seeing some of those N numbers that are really small, I'm a little concerned about whether those students can be identified, and I'm wondering.
I don't think we use the N numbers for less than 5 students.
Okay, there's five, even 5 seems like that's,
Yeah,
you know.
and that's something we could look at. Usually you don't want to do it for less than 10, but we
Yeah.
could look at adjusting those.
Yeah, because that concerns me.
No, I understand.
Sticking with the number thing, there's a couple of different things. When I was looking at the demographics, and if I've said this before, just forgive me. Demographics, who knew? Is it self-reported or selected, right? Like, I'm going to keep asking because
Yes.
apparently I can't remember. Is it the student, right? I guess when and where,
The
right?
student and family self-select.
Okay.
I know where you're saying.
Yep.
And I've seen it, and I get it.
Yes.
Yes, but it's not us, it's the family that selects the.
It's at registration.
At the registration.
register.
How they decide to identify.
Okay. Is there ever a check-in to go back out to families?
And see if
Because
they-
once you're registered, right?
Yeah. You don't touch it again.
And I'm saying this from report backs on, some misidentification within demographics. So like a flag. And then when it comes to demographics, gender versus sex, I'm guessing it's because the state says
Is the
these are your
state,
only
New York
options.
State reportable subgroup, yes.
Is there any opportunity for us to be more inclusive?
Further desegregate that?
Well, to be more
Or-
inclusive, because
right.
male and female,
I think that
I'm
would
not-
be
I'm
like
not here
a
for it.
NISBA advocacy changing with the state.
Yeah.
and
right,
some of
so
the
at the state level, I know like
DEI
that's
inclusion type
that's
of philosophy.
Yeah.
a whole thing, but I'm wondering, within our district, is there a way for us to collect data that isn't just that binary? It doesn't even say, boy, girl, it says male, female. It
Right.
just
No,
makes me
I
bleh.
understand.
So I didn't know if there's any room for that. Not that I'm trying to give y'all more work.
Yeah, so we just mirrored the way state reporting is, but I think you make up a good point. We could see what we could do. I think the bigger question would be, to your earlier question around registration, when would that opportunity be given? And this is where we get some of the challenges based on the age of some of our students,
Yes.
where they want to identify
Yep.
a certain way, and home may want to identify a certain way. So I think it gets a little bit more complicated, but I definitely see where you're going. I do think,
Yeah.
I have a sister who would, potentially label herself as gender fluid, and so that's very different. And so,
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from. I just think the challenge for us would be is how do we get that? Then it would probably open up another conversation where parents would feel like, hey, don't give my kid that opportunity. I want to there's a,
Right,
it gets
yeah,
real
there's,
but I know where you're going.
the kids under 18, it becomes further complicated.
Sure.
Those that are 18 and over,
right.
slightly less complicated, but not necessarily so, depending on families. For the not testing thing, I was like writing notes around accessibility, attendance, accommodations, right? We have designations of children with disabilities, but doesn't necessarily capture every student that needs accommodations for testing specifically. So it was just a flag in my head. And also information for families on the new assessment tool. I personally am a parent that doesn't like tests, for all the reasons that I would not like tests. And my children will take interims, but they don't take the state exams, right?
Right.
So like, I guess twofold, like families knowing, hey, there's this new assessment and here's how it's really good and gets us away from really bad things.
Right.
And so if you could help us, with this.
Absolutely.
But then the second part was interim versus state tests, right? So this is for the interims.
Yes.
But then how does that compare with state testing? And the further complication that there are kids that will take the interim, but won't
not
take the state
assessment.
test. So, that's not envious of your
Yeah.
job at all.
So when it comes to the interim assessment, really it's just for us to kind of gauge where our students would perform or how they would perform if they were to take the state assessment, right? So it's really to help us progress monitor throughout the school year, as opposed to waiting to the end of the year, which is really our topic data, right? So we've got the very end of it, and then what do we do with it at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
So that really helps us for moving forward during that school year. What I will say about Iready is we did provide a link to it. Maybe we could do a little bit more, but we did put a parent communication out. It is on the website. We want parents to know, but parents will also have access to be able to see how their students are doing as well, so.
Yeah, I think the one biggest thing is like, these interim assessments impact the daily experience of
That's right.
kids.
Yeah. Real-time
And-
instruction
and,
shifts.
you know, we want kids reading by third grade, you know? That's the goal. So, I don't care about a state test. I mean, I'm a superintendent. I mean, I care about them. I get measured. You know, I have to do that. But like, at the end of the day, I want kids reading by third grade because it's a major indicator for kids less likely to, you know, have criminal behavior, a variety of other things. So for us, that's to me the important piece. And these interims inform that work. They inform our AIS. They're going to inform our schedule. They're going to inform our budget. So like, to me, the interims are the big piece. But so the state assessments, you know, we have to do them, we have to administer them, there is some value there, but by the time we get those results, we've already moved on
Right.
so much in the school year, so these interims are gonna be a key driver of the work, and the hope is that if a kid's getting AIS, they're not getting it forever.
Right.
The hope is they get out of these groups, and so these groups become fluid, and that this data, you know, gets richer, and so when Dr. Mason mentions what schools are doing, they are doing a lot of things that are similar, but we wanna try to highlight the best practices, duplicate them, figure out. And, you know, we also have to understand that some of that may be some of the demographics in some of the buildings. And I know there was a lot of work done in the past to try to level that demographics across schools, but maybe that needs to get revisited a little bit because there may be a school that always does well, and that may be the school that people gravitate to, or that may be a reflection of school choice or attendance
Population of
zones.
students in
Yeah,
terms
so-
of the
so I think-
disproportionality of students with disabilities.
Right, we're gonna push that. I mean, the alternative assessment kids, I know they sometimes get looped in here and they shouldn't. You know, that's something we have to clean up and do a little bit better at as well.
I think the parent engagement on, you know, understanding the difference between the interim and the state test, it was huge for me because it was the real time, the teacher knows, hey, this is what's not working for,
That's right.
pick one of my kids. And that engagement. And what I saw was that overall, it seemed that K through 6 had the greatest achievements in all areas, including attendance. So kudos to you folks. Always a shout out to PJP. And then it was 7 and 8, and, you know, 9 through 12 last. So, you know, what I heard you report back on was that individualized, looking at the barriers outside of the school, addressing those, that the report backs you received were how they were supporting the whole family, the whole child, and that then allowed them to be successful and be in our buildings. I'm not surprised. I'm sure many others are not. And so, well done and super excited. Glad to see that we continue to move forward.
And again, you know, we added a whole engagement team in February, so like, just realize that like, some of our folks haven't all been here. So the hope is that, you know, COVID is kind of transition, we get real more quote-unquote normal or better moving in, you know, counselors at every elementary school. I mean, there's things the board has approved and the budget is gonna hopefully ramp up some of these things. And so, you know, thank you, and we'll be back again with Q4 in the summer.
Bernice has
Oh,
another
you
question.
got one more? Oh. I didn't know if that list was
Dr.
done.
Mason, don't go
I was
anywhere.
trying to move on.
The mic is yours.
Got Dr. Mason sweating over here.
But we are excited to see some things moving forward in such a short period of time, just upward trajectory, that's.
Thank you,
That's it.
thank you. And Dr. Mason, I do have a few questions.
Sure.
I was wondering, when you were talking, so this is slide 17. I was just wondering, and I believe you had answered this before, I just can't remember. When we're taking attendance, do we consider a student fully attending school if they are there the entire day? Or is there, you know, so if they come in at 11 and they leave at 2 something, is that considered?
They're marked present.
They're marked present.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And then I loved hearing, and I think Jamaica, you alluded to it, there's so much data around home visits.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is amazing. That is, Karen Mapp does a lot of work around home visits, and she talks about the power of home visits. So my question to you is a little, I'm wondering, because I think you mentioned 2 schools that were using home visits as a way of connecting with the parents. I'm wondering if those schools had some, or the teachers or the staff, whoever goes to the schools, have they had some PD around home visits prior?
Yeah, so just attendance is really Andrea's
Oh, okay, I'm
house,
sorry,
and so we can either have her come up and speak, but
Okay,
you know,
sure.
there's a whole attendance engagement team
Oh,
that do these visits and that are trained. Yeah, come on up, Andrea. And so I think it's important. Dr. Mason does all the data collection and seeks for the information, but at the end of the student support services is in Andrea's house, so I want to make sure, and we'll make the shift Q4 to have Andrea really dig into attendance.
Yeah, we had that whole engagement team kind of kick off in February with Jason Belknap leading the group. We have 5 engagement specialists, and they're all assigned to a feeder or a building. And they've been really digging in and working with each team to look at where their data was and what are the things that they can do to help them improve. So a lot of home visits. Jason's working on embedded PD. He's going on home visits with the engagement specialists and talking about some of the best practices and things that he's seeing with them. And then each building kind of brought a different flavor to the table about what they needed. So, you know, I was happy to see that we're on an upward trajectory for last quarter, because that tells me the work that they're doing with the buildings and trying to really get in there. And we talk a lot about barriers in our weekly supervision, about what are the barriers that your team is finding with families and how do we be innovative about, you know, really trying to break those down.
Okay. And then how do you feel the parents have received having these home visits? And I know some of them are McDonald's, I believe.
Pretty well. I think the engagement specialists that we have, and there's people embedded within the schools too. I don't want to say that they're the only ones doing home visits, because there are other folks in the buildings doing home visits, but they're really making good connections with our families. I know I heard 3 of our team members mentioned in Dr. Mason's shout outs today. 2 of them were engagement specialists, 1 were Jason, and those are, you know, I think indicative of those relationships that they're building with our family and community members.
Awesome, thank you.
Who's coming up next?
I know,
Okay.
yeah, slide 20 is grading system.
Oh, no, she has another question.
Yeah, I
What
do.
slide?
Slide
Yeah,
which one?
Slide 20, the grading system, or,
Yeah, yeah,
my
the,
notes say grading system. But
Yeah, the passing courses?
yeah, this one, it's me, but
Yep.
I just
The
need
elementary schools or the secondary schools?
the secondary schools.
Okay.
If you don't mind, Dr. Mason, if you can go over maybe even one example, because I'm still not clear between, you see, the red is if you can talk a little bit about the ones that are in red.
Sure.
Yes.
The ones that are in red saw an increase in the number of failures from
Okay.
quarter 2 to quarter 3.
Oh, okay.
So you would have Howe with 1 course failure that rose from 23 to 40. And then Lincoln rose from 32 to 37.
Yeah.
Page from 40 to 50. So we put those in red. The ones in green saw the decrease of
Yep.
the number of course failures.
Okay, so the red.
So they saw an increase of how many kids failed 1 course, that's why it's in red,
Okay.
versus the green is they dropped.
Yep. Okay.
And the yellow is just 1. So,
Thank you.
no problem.
I have a more general question.
Sure.
And
You want- you
I'm
want me to
really,
do this one?
I don't know who, I don't even know to whom I'm addressing this. My question is the correlation between the level of proficiency and the passing of courses. So we have, by far, most of our young people are at level 1, and, you know, very few are at the level 4. But clearly, we have more people than that who are passing courses. And I guess it's a generic question, there may not be a specific answer. I may not,
Well,
so I'm
yeah, I
putting
would
it out
just say
there.
these are science, social studies, like these are all the
Courses.
subject areas where the interims are, and what we're trying to diagnose are just ELA and math. So I just would, I get what you're saying. You're not proficient in the state testing, but you're passing all your classes.
Yeah, exactly.
So there might be a myriad of factors that's
tie into that, right? So students could pass courses and then fail the Regents exams, right?
As I
So-
said, I was not necessarily expecting an answer
Yeah.
tonight, but I really would like to understand that a little bit
I
more.
think some people are working on their dissertation.
I was gonna say,
We'll
that's
add
a
that as
research question.
Research
to
topic.
To draw the correlation here in the
That's where
district.
my mind goes sometimes. But the English, I mean, I know it's ELA, it's being tested, and math is being tested, and that's the level of proficiency. Those are probably 2 courses, maybe, out of the number that we're talking about. We have social studies and we have science and so forth. But I'm just trying to understand that correlation. So I leave it there. You may all educate me later.
I mean, one of the things just really quickly that comes to mind is the idea that if a student fails the ELA, it doesn't mean that they can't comprehend the knowledge in any of the other courses, right? So they're being taught, there's someone standing there talking to them about social studies or science, and them being able to acquire that information, it doesn't necessarily correlate with passing the ELA.
And the
right?
inverse is the same. You might have a student who is genius and can pass the Regents exam with an 85, but does nothing or doesn't apply themselves all school year and fails a course.
That part
So
I
it's
understand
really-
more completely.
Yeah, but it's a myriad of factors.
We'll work on it.
Whoever does their dissertation.
Thank you, Dr. Mason and Dr. Chisholm.
Thank you.
I'm not going back to school.
Okay. Believe let's see where we are.
Student placements.
We're back at student placements. So we have a resolution approving the placement of certain special education pupils. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved, Bernice. Second,
Second.
Erica. Second, Erica.
Erica, yeah, awfully soft over there.
Oh, all right.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And the motion carries. We have personnel items. We have resolutions approving consent items 8A1 to 8B7 concerning certain personnel actions. I'll accept a motion to approve these items.
So moved, Erica.
All
Is that
right.
better, Kathy? Is that better?
Second,
Second.
and any discussion? Actually, that's a consent item, so. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Did we have anyone here that we?
Yeah, so if we could,
Recognize.
there's a couple folks in here, I do want to take a point of personal privilege and recognize some folks. Do want to thank, I think he's in the audience, Chris Chank, excellent service here at the high school. He's going to transition to be the cohort principal back of the new SUNY Schenectady Early College campus and our partnership with Proctus. He's going to grow that over there, so I want to recognize him. I also want to take a moment and recognize she is already on our team. She's shifting over with some more focused and greater responsibility. Dr. Rebecca DeVries is going to be our director of K through 12 school counseling. So I think I saw her here. Is she here? Yeah. You can just stand up so when I call you, just so we can see you.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. New to SAA and exciting, Dr. PJP is a good recruiter. He will be adding an assistant principal, Christy Ferry, who's in the audience. She's done outstanding work. She was a teacher there, and she's now moving up, and she's excited. We're excited to see what she does. I want to welcome to the district, new to the district as Assistant Director of Special Education, also was formerly New York State Principal of the Year, Lisa Mead, if she's in the audience, welcome. Again, someone at the high school is taking a shift in roles and responsibilities, really going to help us out in terms of our students with disabilities, our specialized programming here at the high school. Emily Tajan is going to be the coordinator of student support, so thank you, Emily. Has stepped up in this role, was filling in an acting capacity, and through the selection process has surfaced to the top, and that's going to be now officially the principal at Lincoln Elementary, Lori Timmis. And in terms of administration, last but not least, new to the district, formerly a psychologist, is going to really help us out in there, and that's going to be our Assistant Director of Special Education, Megan Widrick. If you can stand up, Megan. Those are all the admin.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We have a resolution approving the employment separation agreement between the Schenectady City School District and a certain employee. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
And second?
Second, Bernice.
Bernice. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. We have a resolution approving the employment agreement between the Schenectady City School District and the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Professional Development. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
And second?
Second?
Noelani? Any discussion?
If I can just say, Shannon is in the audience with her husband, I believe. So Shannon, just want to, welcome you to the district. I'll let you guys vote officially, but I just want to make sure you guys know. She is in the audience, so.
Welcome, Shannon. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have that. We have a resolution approving the employment agreement between the Schenectady City School District and the Superintendent of Schools. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved, Bernice.
Second?
Second.
And any discussion? We're glad to have you, and we're glad to continue to employ you.
Thank you. I appreciate the board. And,
I think we're getting all slapped.
it's getting late.
Let's get the vote in.
Exactly, voted in.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. We have a resolution approving the employment agreement amendment between the Schenectady City School District and the Interim Chief of Human Resources. I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
And second?
Second, Bernice.
Bernice? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
And I do
So
want
we
to.
have Deb here.
Yeah, I do want to just say, I do want to thank Deb in front of everybody. She's stepped up, came in February, and filled the gap. Has
Oh,
done a
there she
great
is.
job. She's over there on the
I
right.
didn't see her.
And, with us having Shannon, which is an amazing talent for us to have join the district, she's going to transition us through the summer a little bit, and then Shannon's going to take her daughter some college trips and go to London and all kinds of stuff, and then come ready to go, right? So I want to thank Deb, though, for her time. And
Thank you. We have 4 resolutions that we mentioned earlier. As far as the agenda is concerned, we have Resolution 8G requiring a waiver of the 48-hour rule with regard to the resignation of a certain certificated employee. May I have a motion to approve this waiver?
So moved?
Noelani?
Second.
Second. Ann? And any discussion? All those in favor of the resolution to approve the waiver, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Now we have the resolution itself accepting the resignation of a certain certificated employee. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved?
Was that Noelani?
Yes.
Sorry. Second? I'll do it.
I thought Ann wanted to do all of them tonight.
Ann's going to do all the seconds.
Oh, you want to do all the seconds tonight? We'll do that, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And now we could leave the person hanging as to whether the person is employed, but we won't do that. We have Resolution 8H requiring a waiver of the 48-hour rule with regard to the probationary appointment of a certain certificated employee. May I have a motion to approve this waiver?
So moved.
Second?
Was that Jamaica? And Noelani? Okay, and any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And now that motion carries, or that waiver carries. So we have Resolution 8H appointing a certain certificated employee for a probationary period. I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Second?
Jamaica?
No, it was
That was
Ann.
Ann, sorry.
And then, no, Noelani.
Nolani, gotcha.
We're all fighting for it now.
All
Erica
those in
started
favor,
it.
please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries, so we recognize.
Yeah, so just
Dennis.
want to recognize, Dennis, if you can just stand up, be recognized, officially the principal of the high school moving forward. We're counting on you, big fella. Just kidding. No,
You
we're
didn't
excited.
have to
Dennis is
stand up.
excited.
He's that tall.
And he came up through the search process. You know, we did interviews. He came up as a top candidate. And he's excited to help the redesign at the high school. And we're excited to have him lead that charge. And so, and all the kids love him on social media, by the way. So,
I just wanted to
Congratulations.
make him a little nervous for that 30 seconds of being unemployed. So. Resigned and not yet appointed. What can we say? Yeah, you'll remember me. Resolution 8I requires a waiver of the 48-hour rule with regard to approving the employment agreement between the Schenectady City School District and the Chief of Facilities and Operations. May I have a motion to approve this waiver?
So moved.
Noelani, second?
Second, Erica.
Erica, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That approves the waiver. And now we'll address 8I, accepting the approval of the employment agreement between the Schenectady City School District and the Chief of Facilities and Operations. I'll accept a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
And second?
Second, Erica.
Erica, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And we have,
if Brian, if you can just stand up, be recognized. Brian is joining us as Director of Facilities Operations. Brian was like a unicorn to find. It was really hard to find someone to step on this role, but he knows the charge. He's ready to dig into the work, and we're excited to have you on board, Brian.
thank you for coming tonight.
And if I could ask Brian and Shannon, when the meeting's done, can I see you?
You're already in trouble.
Need some signatures. We have Resolution 8J requiring a waiver of the 48-hour rule with regard to ratifying a memorandum of agreement between the Schenectady City School District and the Schenectady Administrators Association, the highlights of which were presented by Mr. Brock. So may I have a motion to approve this waiver?
So moved, Bernice.
Bernice?
Second, Nolani.
Noelani. Any discussion? All right, and all those in favor of the waiver, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries, and now we have a Resolution 8J ratifying the memorandum of agreement between the Schenectady City School District and the Schenectady Administrators Association. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Jamaica, second.
Second.
And any discussion? We've had discussion about it previously. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. We now come to our business items. We have a resolution accepting the donation of $500 to purchase storage cabinets for a food pantry at Mount Pleasant Middle School. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved, Bernice.
Bernice, second.
Second.
And privilege.
Ann, it's Ann.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have a resolution awarding a contract, and we thank the
Yes.
The donator.
The discussion is thank you.
donator. Is that the word?
Yes,
Whoever, the person who donated, or
And
the
I will
organization.
note that the person who signed that form, Elena Alvarez, her two children graduated from this high
Yes,
school. so
I
it's
know her,
fantastic to
yes.
see.
We have a resolution awarding a contract as the result of a bid for additional routes for summer enrichment transportation. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved, Bernice.
Bernice, second.
Second, Erica.
Erica? Any discussion?
Just a quick question. Is this in addition to using CDTA?
Yes,
For
this
the
is
summer?
summer enrichment, so this
Yeah.
is the yellow bus
The
companies.
yellow, yep.
And
Durham.
Durham and those other
Okay.
folks. Yeah, so
Northland,
CDTA won't
Summer.
do our elementary summer enrichment. and
Okay.
So this is what
Okay.
the yellow bus is.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. We have a resolution awarding a contract as the result of a bid for summer special education transportation. I'll accept the motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Ann, second.
Jamaica.
Jamaica. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. We have a resolution accepting the treasurer's report for the month ended April 30th, 2022. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved, Bernice.
Bernice, second.
Second, Nolani.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have that one passed. A resolution accepting the central treasurer's report for the month ended April 30th, 2022. I'll
So
accept a motion to approve this resolution.
moved, Bernice.
Bernice, second.
Second, Nolani.
Alani. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? And that passes. Just a few more. A resolution approving an amendment to the lease for Kane Elementary School. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved, Erica.
Erica, second.
Second.
Ann? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. We have a resolution authorizing reserve fund transfers and maximum allocations. I'll accept a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved, Bernice.
Bernice, second.
Second.
Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. We have a second opportunity at this point for any comments from the public or board members.
Yeah, I forgot to mention earlier, there's a summer series at Jerry Burrell Park on July 16th. They're having a Depa Salma Dance Ensemble featuring Zorky Nelson, and he's Schenectady local. Then on August 20th, there's the Hip Hop Celebration, and September 17th, our own Alex Torres and his Latin Orchestra is going to be at Jerry Burrell Park.
Alex Torres is amazing. Two things. One, we should all just go back and watch this board meeting because Kathy, you were very much like focused and we were all just being silly. It was great. And the second thing about that is we all do a lot of hard work and do a lot of reading and research and follow up and looking for answers. I hope that each of us take time this summer to recharge and renew and be ready for the many meetings ahead of us because it is hard work and I'm glad to do it, but also looking forward to a break.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also,
Go ahead. Go ahead,
sorry, forgot to mention earlier the first time, it's also Father's Day this weekend, so happy Father's Day
Hey.
to all of the fathers out there. I hope everyone enjoys their day.
All right, I gotta go. No, sure.
I forgot to mention, I had the opportunity to watch the Yates dance performance, and it was a YouTube broadcast, and I must say there were 3 different groups of students. This was a residency program done by Saratoga Performing Arts Center, and I have to say I didn't know anything about it in advance, and I'd like to see all of our
Neither do we.
all of our elementary schools be able to have that, and anyone else, because I think that it must have been great physical exercise for the kids, you know, something a little different than regular gymnasium.
Did you see the
But I
adult
also
performance?
saw the adult
Yeah,
performance
exactly,
at the end, and the teachers, and I hand out to our hand what do you call it, an applause, kudos to the teachers and the principal
Yep.
who did a pretty well choreographed dance to, I believe it was Celebrate.
Happy, share the link,
Yeah.
so the rest of us can enjoy.
Yeah.
I saw it on the website, I think.
Yeah.
It was on the
Or
website.
It's on our social media
Social
feed.
media.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go
You
find
know,
She's taking a break.
I don't have much of a sharing opportunity. Okay, so at this point,
Just a couple more things.
Sure.
I just want to highlight ONIDA, the ONIDA Students Anti-Racism Celebration on Friday. I do want to recognize them. It's their Juneteenth celebration from 4 to 6 at ONIDA. So I want to make sure that we uplift that event as, although it's Friday, there's still stuff going on. MBK is doing their year-end celebration at Camp Lovejoy on Friday as well. They're taking the group of our young men to Camp Lovejoy from 12 to 4. We're also partnering with Hamilton Hill for the Art Center for Juneteenth this weekend. You may have saw our logo on their logo, which is new. Dr. Cotto has reached out, figuring out what we can do to table and be present in that space as well. We're also going to work with them to do a back-to-school event on August 20th, so that's an early shutout. And then the summer school registration, just give you, we're about almost 1,400 families registered, or students registered for summer school. And then the last thing I want to recognize our SAA partners. Sometimes when you negotiate, it's not always easy, but we got through it, and there's a lot of history. And I think what Tony said was really, for me, positive. Both sides came in with an idea, but we focused on what we can do better for the district. So thank you guys for the partnership.
we need to just revisit that we have graduation here at the high school on the football field, hopefully next Friday, June 24th at 9 a.m. And rain time is 1 p.m. And if it rains at 1 p.m. and we haven't done it yet, we're still doing it. That's what I'm told. Bring your umbrella if that's the case. So this will be a new experience for us. Last year we were able to put some tents up on the football field, but we have a new turf this year and we cannot do that. So, so we are subject to the elements, shall we say.
My team stays on me. One important plug. June 21st, Special Olympics at the high school. We're hosting 10 to 12, so if you have an opportunity to see some of those student athletes, come on out.
Good, good. So, so with that, we will conclude the last meeting for June 2021 to, well, June 2022, but the 21 to 22 year. And I have to call for an executive session for the purpose of discussing the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation. I'll accept a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Noelani, second.
Second, Bernice.
Bernice, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we will meet in the Commons. And thank you, everyone, for coming, and do enjoy the summer